So we spent $83 billion training and equipping Afghan security forces. How the fuck did they get rolled that fast? They were too busy having sex with children, okay?
Brilliant. That's great analysis.
That's what happened. And if you think that's me like being racist or something, that's literally a thing that fucking happened.
But that's not why they lost, Hasan. If that was the case, then the Taliban would not be able to launch this operation because they would be too busy raping little girls that they marry off to 40-year-old men.
Dude, if you're there for 20 fucking years and the Taliban can take over in like literally one fucking busy weekend, you didn't do shit. It's proof alone that we didn't do anything positive to Afghanistan, okay?
Again, that's simplistic. Overall, we didn't really do enough, and therefore it was a failed mission. But the idea that we didn't do anything positive also was reductive, because you could easily just point to women's rights. See, this is the problem. People dig themselves into undefendable positions. Then all someone has to do is come in and prove that we did a single good thing in Afghanistan. And then, boom, you look like a fucking moron. My thing is overall it wasn't enough, and we made multiple blunders, and right now it's shoulda, coulda, woulda. It is better to leave the country. You know what? I'm curious. I think if there's any other time to do it, it's now. I want to see what Hasan's take on Afghanistan is. I'm genuinely curious. I want to hear it.
Thousands of American lives to end up with absolutely nothing but more humiliation. Pashtun tribesmen shooting at us with our guns as we run away. That is the
See, if Tucker Carlson knows what a Pashtun is, then I feel like everybody else here should know, okay? If Tucker Carlson knows what Pashtun is, then everybody needs to know what Pashtun is.
definition of disaster. So rather than just complain about it, let's hold somebody accountable for it, for once. Half the Biden State Department had a hand in our failed Afghanistan policy, yet they're still employed there. Why is that? The Pentagon was supposed to build a functional national army in Afghanistan.
If Tucker Carlson has like anti-war narrative because he wants to do like populism and he has like Glenn Greenwald on and stuff, I'm constantly reminded of what he used to say about Iraq and Afghanistan, that they're primitive apes that deserve to be glassed. I don't think his point of view has changed.
Wait. The thing is, though, Hasan, is he can believe that people in the Middle East like Iraq or people in Central Asia like Afghanistan are illiterate or primitive, which is an extremely disgusting thing to say, while also thinking we should leave. Because his argument would just be different, that the reason we should leave is we just shouldn't waste taxpayer dollars on the quote-unquote primitive so-and-so group in the Middle East, or in this case, Central Asia. So he can 100% still believe both things.
And Afghanistan, that they're primitive apes that deserve to be glassed. I don't think his point of view has changed.
So people didn't do their jobs and then lied about not doing their jobs, but they're still wearing the uniform of our country? Why is that? Good question. So for the first time in a long time, maybe we could hold our own leaders to account for the calamities they have caused. That's not simply a matter of justice, though it definitely is that. It is the only way to prevent disasters like this from happening again. Eric Prince knows a lot more about Afghanistan than a lot of the people in charge of our Afghanistan policy. He's a former Navy SEAL. He's the founder of Blackwater, and we're happy.
No, he had Eric Prince. Yo, Tucker Carlson.
That is wild. Did he actually have Eric Prince on from Blackwater? That is actually wild. He had Eric Prince on? Dude, it's not that hard to just find some random person who agrees with you. Why'd you pick Eric Prince?
A working class hero, dude, has Eric Prince on, founder of Blackwater.
Eric Prince, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Tucker.
Before I ask you what we should do,
I know what Eric Prince wants to do. The New York Times allowed him to literally write a fucking op-ed about it. He wants his actual war criminal company, which Trump pardoned, by the way, many of the war criminals, to go in and set up a mercenary band that turns Afghanistan into a vassal state. Like, literally. And there's a reason why it's no longer called Blackwater, but instead called Academy. The reasons are war crime.
Okay, the thing is, they have to keep renaming the company because the company has such a terrible reputation that if they kept the name Blackwater, they would literally get zero business. So they just do war crime, change name, hope people forget.
You know how we often talk about like the CEO of racism or whatever? Yeah, that's a joke. But this motherfucker is literally the CEO of war crimes, and Blackwater is the factory of war crimes, okay? This is some real fucking Kojimbo shit. Like, this guy is Kojimbo. When Hideo Kojima imagined a world an endless war with private military contractors fighting one another, he was tailoring that off of what this guy's vision is. And he very openly states that he wants to do that. Lolly lule low ass, dude. It's not even it's not even a secret. Didn't he actually use the terminology? Like he wanted to appoint czars in Afghanistan. What was he saying? His Afghanistan strategy is functionally turning it into a vassal state for the United States with like an actual fucking vizier or czar. He wanted to have viceroys. Yeah, exactly. My man literally fucking openly wrote in the New York Times, which great of the New York Times to like offer a war criminal to write about how he wants to implement viceroys in Afghanistan. Like we're going straight back to like, you know, imperialism and colonialism of the old age. It's just fucking mind-boggling that, like, again,
so far nothing that Hasan has said is incorrect. I have nothing. He hasn't said anything incorrect so far.
The New York Times allowed him to write an article
so far Hasan has a better ratio, a W to L ratio than Mike from PA.
To advocate for his own private army to take over Afghanistan and privatize the war fighting efforts there. And I fear that that will happen, by the way. I do fear that, like, that is where we will head towards.
As the United States military pulls out of that country in a hasty, haphazard, almost cruel manner, cities and towns keep falling to the Taliban. That group is thought to now control half of the country's provincial capitals, and its capital, Kabul, well, it could be next. Those of us who support the United States' pullout, who have been calling for an end to America's longest war and welcomed President Joe Biden's announcement of an August 31st deadline for full withdrawal, we have to reckon with the very...
By the way, can I just be clear to you guys that the violence in Afghanistan is most likely not going to stop. Some people think that like this will be the end of it. Most likely not. There are a lot of people who still despise the Taliban. In fact, I would say the majority of Afghans do, but a lot of them have been subjugated by fear. Now, this is going on right now. The vice president of Afghanistan, it was spotted with anti-Taliban commanders in a province that is still not under Taliban control. They're still operating. They're still figuring out how to fight the Taliban now. They're just going to be the resistance, and the Taliban's going to be the government. The civil war is not going to end, in my opinion. Now, maybe the Taliban shocks me, and after 20 years of not really needing to govern, and to the same extent the ANA had to govern, they will shock me, but I think there will most certainly still be resistance. Remember, like, the Taliban it fought people in the 1990s. They fought the Soviet. They fought everybody, basically. Well, the Taliban fought the rest of the Mujahideen. Those people still exist. They still hate the Taliban. How much of a fight do you think they can put up from this province? Not much. But the thing is, it's not where they are now. If you told me, if you walked up to me and say, do you think the Taliban could put much of a fight in 2001 after we invaded? I'd say, no, they've been annihilated. Look at them. But the Taliban came back and they won. The question really is how big is this resistance going to be? Because let's say the Taliban can't govern effectively, then this resistance is only going to grow, of course. So the question is, like, how big is it actually going to be? Because I see, like people like, for instance, like Anthony, like Stoic Viper on Twitter. He's somebody I talked to a decent amount about foreign policy. We have a lot of disagreements. He's like, we need to support the resistance. It's how? Like, how? My question would be like, what do you mean? What do you want us to do? I think our involvement in the country is pretty damn well over.
Very real, very human costs and consequences of that withdrawal.
Province is that? I think it's in the middle of the country, which is like historically anti-Taliban stronghold.
We do. I'm under no illusions about how bad it's going to get for ordinary Afghans.
Do you still support pulling out? Yes. Guys, The fact that the Taliban took over nearly the entirety of Afghanistan in a matter of like one fucking, weekend, where they were working on the weekend like usual, after 20 years of our fucking invasion, implies that like that invasion was a wholehearted catastrophe from the jump. And we've been saying that already. We had 20 years to build infrastructure, train the Afghan military, and we just kept pumping money into pedophile warlords instead. We didn't do dick. I have a conspiracy. Are you guys ready for this? I have a conspiracy for this. And that conspiracy is that they wanted to pull out of Afghanistan, leave it in a fucking state of disrepair, just so they could justify permanent occupation. That's my conspiracy. Afghanistan is ripe with natural resources.
Wow, man, that's crazy. That's a lot of speculation to put in a video to hundreds of thousands of people. That's great conspiracy. That is a conspiracy. I don't know why you're bringing it up or saying it, but okay. He did say it's a conspiracy. True, but if I don't know. I mean, as long as he like says it in a way that's like, now we have no evidence, but
lots of minerals in Afghanistan.
We're not going back. Let me just be clear. There's no way in hell we're going back.
And part of the reason why there was strategic positioning for the USSR. And I feel as though they were just like, hey, guess what? Look at how terrible it is. I guess we have to go back, and we always have to be there. And that's probably what's going to end up happening. What is this? And there it is. Never mind. Breaking. Biden increases U.S. deployment to Afghanistan to 5,000 as Taliban roll on. That was quick. I did not realize that we were going to get there immediately. My bad. That's from 53 minutes ago, dude. Are you fucking kidding me? When I was doing the last hour ad break, the American government was releasing 5,000 extra troops to Afghanistan. I'm pre-watching American imperialism happening. That's insane, dude. That's fucking insane. This entire fucking week, every outlet was like losing their fucking...
I can't tell if he's serious or not. Okay, so the reason why those soldiers were deployed is because analysts predicted that it could be that the country could fall in as fast as 90 days. Those analysts were dead wrong. It was very, very, very quick that the country fell. Therefore, Biden, who previously thought, since we're leaving in 14 days, that he only needed a few thousand troops, is now like, well, now we need a ton of troops to guard the airport as we all leave. This is Biden practicing retrograde. This is not a symbol that he is going to stay there permanently and use the destabilization to justify a longer deployment. That is not what's going on. He is going to withdraw. He has owned his position of withdrawal very, very, very much so. He has grabbed the position of withdrawal, held on to it, and he's going with it. He is going with the position of withdrawal.
Minds like going crazy. NPR exclusively covered Afghanistan. Like literally, you could not have a fucking pedophile warlord sneeze without the NPR talking about it. Like, is it COVID? Are the pedophile warlords in Afghanistan bringing COVID to Kabul? When will they take over Kabul? Kabul is coming. And like literally, they were just like, they were the #1 fans of the Taliban. They were just like covering every fucking step. Taliban might be working on the weekend like usual. You know who else is working on the weekend like usual? Joe Biden and the American war machine, baby. Biden says will not pass this war to Afghanistan, war in Afghanistan to another U.S. leader. So what are they going to do? Are they going to fucking, do genocide or what's up? The whole statement. Statement by President Joe Biden on Afghanistan, Jack. Over the past several days, I've been saying to the Taliban, cut the malarkey. Only I get to touch and kiss the ladies, Jack, not you. First, based on the recommendations of our diplomatic, military, and intelligence teams, I have authorized.
Hasan did react to Biden's speech. That might be a better place for level-handed commentary. Can somebody send me Biden's speech? That'll be probably what I'll end the stream with, by watching Biden's speech. I think that's a good way to end today's stream.
The deployment of approximately 5,000 U.S. troops, Jack, and an orderly and safe evacuation of Afghans who helped our troops during our mission.
Do I feel like the 5,000 troops will help? Well, the 5,000 troops most certainly mean the airport's going to be more secure. But I doubt the Taliban are going to attack the airport. They have no reason to do so. All they would do is like if they attack the airport, all that would mean is that it would be the one thing they could do to actually possibly extend American involvement in Afghanistan. They have no reason to do it. Speech is boring, just double down. Well, I still listen to it.
Yeah, dude. We couldn't do that with two.
I heard the Pentagon also had a meeting about it, or like a public like hearing or something. I forget, not a public hearing, but like press conference. Probably look at that too.
2,000. We need 5,000 now. We've been pulling out of Afghanistan for like 3 years now. Isn't that exactly what I said? Yes, the point is you're delusional for believing it, you dumbass. How are you literally a fucking veteran, or at least have veteran in your name, and are too fucking brain dead to recognize that this is not what's gonna actually end up happening? If you're a veteran, what are you? You're not a veteran of the fucking...
Wait, what is he saying here? Does he not think that we're actually gonna withdraw from Afghanistan? Does he really not think we're not... We are withdrawing from Afghanistan. We are withdrawing from Afghanistan. That is happening. There's no way of reversing that. The amount of troops we would need to deploy in Afghanistan to stop the Taliban takeover would be like 100,000, not 5,000. This is purely for retrograde.
Korea War, if you're actually a veteran, as your name implies, that means you probably were there. Like, very likely. Unless you're a fucking Coast Guard veteran. You said he's not? Oh, never mind. He's just stealing valor.
When do you reckon they'll reestablish the videos before the fall of Kabul? Even before the fall of Kabul, anybody could see from all the provinces that was falling that the amount of troops that would need to be deployed for us to know that that it would need to be about 20,000 minimum to probably hold the line. Like, I mean, 100,000 if they actually wanted to retake everything and actually have anti-Taliban operations. Like, it would need to be a massive amount by the time like all these provincial capitals were falling and when Kandahar fell, like once Kandahar fell, everyone saw the writing on the walls. There was no reversing it, basically.
Hey, that's good for me, brother. Don't worry about that. Not to be that guy, but the Taliban were advancing too fast, bro. We need a security detachment so our interpreters, contractors, embassy people to leave. I think we should criticize this on August 31st if the troops are still there. Yeah, we'll see what happens to the troops. If they didn't do this, they were just gonna...
We'll see what happens. Well, then don't speculate. Like, this happens all the time. This happened, like, every single time we withdraw, we have to do something like this. This happened in... I'm pretty sure this happened similarly in Vietnam.
Leave it up to fucking Turkey. They've already sent in like the Turkish envoy, that fucking that warlord that was living in Turkey, Dostum. He literally just landed the Uzbek like Turkish envoy Afghan warlord that landed 2 days ago. So if they weren't going to directly do this themselves, they were probably going to make the Turkish government control the country going forward, as you know, customary of NATO, of course. The Taliban taking over so quickly proves the military occupation strategy is inferior to sending aid and trying to improve material conditions of the average Afghan. So we spent $83 billion training and equipping Afghan security forces. How the fuck did they get rolled that fast? They were too busy having sex with children, okay?
Brilliant. That's great analysis.
That's what happened. And if you think that's me like being racist or something, that's literally a thing that fucking happened.
But that's not why they lost, Hasan. If that was the case, then the Taliban would not be able to launch this operation because they would be too busy raping little girls that they marry off to 40-year-old men.
And our military turns...
Is there any truth to what he's talking? There's truth to the fact that happened, but the idea that the ANA didn't defend because of like this is really shallow analysis.
Look the other way while it was happening. When your goal isn't to fucking actually create a stable country which is capable of self-governance, you put puppets in charge and you don't fucking do it.
Wait, whose goal? Was it our goal wasn't to have a stable government? Then what was the goal, Hasan? Just perpetual chaos? I'm so confused.
Anything. Why wouldn't they look the other way? It's not their jurisdiction. Yeah, dude, totally. Like when the American military trained death squads in Nicaragua, they were not looking the other way when they fucking raped and murdered nuns, for example. It's not in their jurisdiction, bro. Bro, that's their culture, bro, right? Is that what you're saying? Is that like your argument? What the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Why the fuck are we there if it's not their jurisdiction? U.S. soldiers were told to ignore the sexual abuse of boys by Afghan allies. Dan Quinn was relieved of his Special Forces command after a fight with a U.S.-backed militia leader who had a boy as a sex slave chained to his bed. At night, we can hear them scream.
Dude, I can't. These people are fucking insane. I really mean it. They are insane. Look at this shit. I say, unironically, was shocked when Mike said the Afghan government was worse than the Taliban. Didn't expect it. I mean, the U.S., along with U.S.-backed militias, did kill more Afghan civilians than the Taliban. The only place where women had some liberties. Okay. So, number one, you need to give me a source on this. Now, when you say killed more Afghan civilians than the Taliban, actually, let me check. Because I believe, oh, also, here's another thing that Mike cited. He said that 90% of our drone strikes kill civilians. That's also something that he said during the stream that I never even commented on. That was another statistic that he miscited. And I know exactly the article he was reading. Is The Intercept. If you read the whole piece, it says during a few month period, during one operation, that was the case. But he says like 90% of our drone strikes kill civilians. That's complete bullshit. Like, it's literally impossible. We would need to be literally the most ineffective military force on the planet if basically 9 out of 10. I wouldn't even think the Russian military would do that. Hell, I don't even think the Taliban, if they had an air force, 90% of their strikes would kill civilians. It's literally just not possible. God, there's so much. But one second. Let me Google this quick, because I could swore that this isn't true. What killed the majority of The majority of Afghan civilians were killed by improvised explosive devices. 41% of the deaths in conflict. IEDs. Okay, so if I know anything about the war in Afghanistan, is that the Taliban are much better with IEDs and working with IEDs than the American government or the ANA. And if 41% of the civilians were killed by improvised explosive devices, that probably wasn't the US government. Lo, we unironically are the most ineffective military in history. I mean, it depends on what you mean by that. Number one, we're not. The most ineffective, like, there's a lot of militaries I can point to. Italy's during World War II was particularly ineffective. I don't know, the Luxembourgian military. I mean, we are the most powerful military on the planet, but fighting a conventional war and fighting a guerrilla war are two totally different things. Like, if we fought the Taliban in a conventional warfare setting, it wouldn't be a chance. In 2001, we smashed the Taliban because we fought in large part a conventional war, taking city after city after city. Anyway, back to Sun.
Screaming, but we're not allowed to do anything about it. The Marine's father, Gregory Buckley Sr., recalled his son telling him before he was shot to death at the base in 2012. He urged his son to tell his superiors. My son said that his officers told him to look the other way because of their culture. Implying the Taliban don't also do this? Dog, we cannot control the Taliban. Are you fucking dumb? Oh, the Taliban do a little bit of boy fucking too. So, you know, our warlords on our side, some of which might fucking turn rank and like join the Taliban, like, you know, they should be able to do a little bit of boy fucking too. Is that your take? Is that like the dude, oh god, the neoliberal imperialism defenders have logged on, boys. Dude, if you're there for 20 fucking years and the Taliban can take over in like literally one fucking busy weekend, you didn't do shit. It's proof alone that we didn't do anything positive to Afghanistan, okay?
Again, that's simplistic. Overall, we didn't really do enough, and therefore it was a failed mission. But the idea that we didn't do anything positive also was reductive, because you could easily just point to women's rights. See, this is the problem. People dig themselves into undefendable positions. And when you dig yourself into undefendable positions, then all someone has to do is come in and prove that we did a single good thing in Afghanistan. And then, boom, you look like a fucking moron. My thing is, overall, it wasn't enough. Therefore, since overall it wasn't enough, and we made multiple blunders, and right now it's shoulda, coulda, woulda, it is better to leave the country.
People didn't fucking want us there. No one wanted us to be there.
What? Women's rights? Women being able to go to school, women being able to work. Like Karat University, like 60% of the women were, 60% of the students were women. Women being able to participate in governance. women being able to vote. These are big things. I know as Americans, it's hard to like think about like women voting or like women participating in government or women like going to school or anything are being like major things. But when you're talking about the Taliban, yes, those are major things.
The Taliban numbers rose from like 11K in 2008 to 85K in 2021 while we were there. So what the fuck are we doing? I wonder why that happened, despite the fact that America was routinely...
Women's rights haven't been advanced at all in Afghanistan. Don't be naive. What was seen in the capital wasn't common in the provinces. Well, okay. Well, number one, I would understand that if it's Taliban-controlled territory, it's not going to be the same. But the thing is, women's rights have advanced. The literacy rate among women have advanced by more than 100%. To argue that because it wasn't across the board or not everybody in the countryside got to share in those wonderful things is not an argument that women's rights haven't advanced. It's that women's rights advanced, but there could have been more, number one. And number two, it should have been more dispersed.
engaging in fucking conflict with the Taliban. I wonder if there was...
What goals did we set for women? Literacy, rights, what were they? I don't know if we set goals. What do you mean? And why would that matter for if they were advanced or... This is fucking stupid. I'm sorry, but... This feels weird. Like we don't need this. You do know you don't need to pretend that everything's fine with like the Taliban and the Afghan National Army are like the same thing. You can acknowledge that women did advance during the last 20 years in Afghanistan and also acknowledge that that's not a good enough argument to maintain our presence in the country.
There's another force that I don't know, great.
Could somebody find me some civilian casualty data? Because all the civilian casualty data that's available that I can find is like really outdated.
Greatly increased the number within their ranks despite constantly getting killed. I wonder if there was another outside force that motivated a lot of people to join up the arms and think that this cause that they were fucking there. I mean, the number didn't increase from 2008. That number you're referencing, by the way.
The Taliban and other anti-government elements have been blamed for every 4 out of 5 civilians who were killed in Afghanistan last year, continuing a rising trend since 2007. The number of civilian deaths resulting from pro-government forces have, by contrast, have fallen by 23%.
I want to call
This
in
is
'cause
data
I
from
need
the
to add
United
on to some
Nations.
of your points. Sorry that your chat is acting papega.
So look, nah, I don't want you to really call in right now. I gotta be honest. We only have 55 minutes left. We gotta finish this, then we gotta watch Biden's speech.
Wait, for the record.
NPR, United Nations reports civilian casualties reach record high. And does it say who caused the majority of them? 47% increase in the number of civilians killed and wounded in Afghanistan 6 months a year. I implored Taliban and Afghan leaders. Taliban have swiftly captured significant territory, reached strategic border cautions. The UN mission in Afghanistan reported the protection of civilians. That 1,659 civilians were killed and 3,254 wounded. It's 47% increase. Women and children made up close to half of all civilian casualties. 32% were children. And this was also during the same period that the Taliban were making rapid advances, so it's kind of hard to argue that it wouldn't be the Taliban causing the vast majority of these casualties. But it doesn't say who caused. It blamed anti-government forces for 64% of all civilian casualties, with 39% by the Taliban, 9% by the Islamic State, and 16% undetermined. Afghan security forces were responsible for 23%, and pro-government and armed groups for 2%. Oh, not this yet. We're still watching Hasan, I guess.
Record, I'm going to clarify. And
Stop trying to defend endless war. I'm just going to start banning people. Look, if somebody comes into... Okay, let's say that I walk into the room and you don't like Trump. And I say, Trump beat 20,000 SEALs to death. And then you're sitting there like, I hate Trump. But that is completely incorrect. And then I turn to you and say, stop defending Trump. Do you see? This is what it feels like right now. I want to withdraw from Afghanistan. But when people say stuff like the Taliban is better than the Afghan government, I'm sitting here getting a brain tumor actively. I'm actively getting a brain tumor right now. I'm not saying that we should stay in the country forever, but I'm not going to lie about who's causing the vast majority of the casualties right now.
$5. When it comes to drone strikes, the BIJ lists civilian causalities at 1520, astronomically lower than conventional raids or bombings.
Well, yes, drone strikes are conventionally like do less damage than bombing raids. That is true, but drones are also a lot easier to deploy and therefore deployed more frequently. No one said the Taliban is better than the Afghan government, bro. What are you talking about? Yes, someone did. Fucking Mike from PA said it. We watched it live on stream. He said that the Afghan government is the most evil force within Afghanistan. What's the other major force in Afghanistan?
And not be from 2008. That number definitely was larger. It was still large in 2008, but that number is probably from like at the heat of like America purging back the Taliban forces. Stop saying literally Pakistan.
I'm yelling at Hasan right now. No, I'm yelling at chatters and fucking people trying to tell me that the Taliban's like fucking peachy keen and don't worry about it. I'm honestly gonna just start timing people out. I can't do this. This hurts. Man, this legitimately hurts.
Pakistan does play a role in this, okay? Again, hey, ally, by the way. America's ally.
Couldn't the women's rights point be said about the advancement of women's rights in the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan? Yes, it could. Yes, it could. The same point I'm making right now could have been made about the advancement of women's rights in the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan during the communist era. Yes, it could have. 100%.
Remember that, okay? America's fucking ally, but it's not just fucking Pakistan. That's not the reason. The main reason is because people were...
Also, we're in the middle of a hype train, and look, today I've suffered a lot of brain worms, okay? And they're actively digging into my skull now. So, if you want to help me with those medical bills to deal with the brain worms that I've gotten from reacting to all these terrible takes on Afghanistan, I would deeply appreciate any subs or donos you could throw towards. The donos will go towards me getting a DSLR camera, and the subs will go towards like things like rent, stream production, stuff like that. I'd really appreciate any help you could throw my way with Twitch Primes or anything else. Not Foreigner, thank you so much for Prime Gaming, and Darkmer, thanks for the Prime Gaming.
Were motivated. People were motivated to push back against an imperial force that was destroying their infrastructure and blowing up shit and murdering people.
Hey, Gimp Boy, thank you so much for the Prime.
Of course, dude. What the fuck? Who funded the Mujahideen? That's a really good question. Who considered the Mujahideen, some of which became Al-Qaeda, some of which became the Taliban? Who considered them to be brave warriors? Not me. I mean, if you ask Fox News, it was me. But I'm pretty sure there were...
I mean... To be fair, like, I mean, so are the Taliban. I mean, if you're fighting some of the most powerful militaries on the planet, you're brave warriors. Doesn't mean you're fighting for a good cause. Swizz. Like, nobody can tell me the Mujahideen fighting the Soviet Union were not actually brave, okay? They're a lot braver than any of us. Because if you can stare down tanks and blow them up, you're usually a pretty brave guy. Doesn't mean they're good people. Just means they're pretty fucking brave.
Oh, that's right. It was the American military because they saw it as a counterbalance to the USSR involvement in the region. That's
ethnic violence in Afghanistan. No, I don't think he's saying that. Is Hasan saying that the Taliban? I don't think Hasan has talked about like. Okay, so violence. Taliban role. Yeah, so the
Salakin $5.
Jesus
Another
Christ.
crucial point. The Taliban offered to hand over bin Laden in 2001. This was insincere as Mullah Omar was adamant pre- and post 9/11 to never hand over bin Laden.
After the Pashtuni Taliban rose to power in the 1990s, they began committing atrocities against their opponents, the Shias, the Hazras, the Tajiks, and the Uzbeks. In 1998, the United Nations accused the Taliban of denying emergency food by the UN's World Food Program to 160,000 hungry and starving people. By the way, if you're against this, then you should also be against us blockading Yemen. I just want to throw that up there. That us, by the way, us supporting the Saudi blockade of Yemen. I just want to throw that out there. That the Saudi blockade of Yemen is actively starving the population of Yemen. And if you're against this, and you're against what the Taliban did here, then you should be equally against what the Saudis are doing in Yemen and how we back them up. I gotta say this so the neocons in my chat who are here like, yeah, take out Hasan, get purged, okay? For political and military reasons. The UN stated that the Taliban were starving people for their military agenda and using humanitarian assistance as a weapon of war. The colonization of Pashtuns and Pashtun nationalism was part of the ideology of the Taliban. The Northern Alliance was formed in opposition to the Taliban, was composed of Hazaras, Tajiks, and Uzbeks. The group was supported by a number of countries, such as the United States, Iran, Russia, and India.
Chauncey Extreme $5. Sorry, I am drunk and malding over Afghanistan.
Thanks for the $5. But a lot of people don't know this, that the Northern Alliance was also supported by the Russians and the Iranians. A lot of people don't remember that. In 1997, the Northern Alliance... By the way, if you're looking at posts about Afghanistan right now, a lot of Indians are talking about it, like Indians as in India, are talking about it. And you'll see a lot of posts about Indians, like Indians like posting about like, screw the Taliban, da-da-da. And that's because like, India's actually been pretty involved in Pakistani politics, obviously. They have a lot of conflict. And because the Pakistan is pretty notorious for its relationship to the Taliban, a lot of Indian people are like, well, you know what? Fuck the Taliban. Get them ANA. Get them Afghan National Army. The group was supported by a number of countries, such as in 1997, the Northern Alliance killed 2,000 members of the Taliban, and they'd captured in conflicts between the two groups. The Taliban launched an attack on... I can't say that. Once in control, the Taliban began to kill people based on their ethnicity, especially Hazaras and Uzbeks. Men, women, and children were hunted by Taliban forces. As a result, 15,000 to 3,000 Taliban fighters executed. The act of ethnic cleansing left about 5,000 to 6,000 dead. So a lot of people don't know about this history because it's not widely covered. Because we just really know the Taliban because of 9/11. But the Taliban did engage in ethnic cleansing, particularly of Hazaras. Anyway, let's get back to this. Hey, Doodly, thank you so much for the 5 gifted tier 1s. I really appreciate it. By the way, is Hazara militias joining the Taliban something that's happened before? I don't know. Obviously, any Hazara militia joining the Taliban is something of note, considering they have historically ethnically cleansed Hazaras. I mean, that would be like hearing about like a Jewish militia, like joining Germans in their like march on Poland. It's obviously it makes you raise an eyebrow, but I don't know if that's like a single militia joining the Taliban is indicative of the Hazara population's views on the Taliban.
Wait,
where were we?
$5. When it comes to the Taliban, they were one faction. Seemingly most of the support the U.S. gave went to militas that would form the Northern Alliance. The claims that U.S. created the Taliban, Bin Laden isn't supported by evidence. Read Ghost Wars.
If you could send me the link on what you're saying, because I do know we did, like through the ISI, a lot of the money that we did give went to the Mujahideen. Now, which factions within the Mujahideen, that's where you need to get like into the nuance of it. But I'm pretty sure that some of that money went to what is now the Taliban. I think that's pretty undeniable. I don't know how much, though. I'm pretty sure some of it did. If you could send me your source, Salokin, even if you just DM it to me, I appreciate it.
That's right. That's crazy. Fuck, you're so right. That's so wild, dude. We did that. Shocking. I know. And because they wanted the USSR to experiment their own Vietnam, yeah, guess what? That still found its way for us to fucking experiment Vietnam 2 Electric Boogaloo. Because America was like, yeah, fuck that. USSR not doing a good enough job there. They couldn't do their own... By the way, what that chatter is saying is literally true. These are declassified CIA documents that talked about the American military's interest in creating a Vietnam-like condition for the USSR at the time in Afghanistan. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the whole reason we supported the Mujahideen was because we cared about Afghan, like... independence. We did it specifically to piss on the Soviets. That's undeniable.
It's like an actual admission, except then it turned into our Vietnam. So that's cool. Rambo 3 aged like a good wine. Yeah, this film is dedicated to the brave Mujahideen fighters of Afghanistan. I know. We always prop up the worst, the absolute fucking worst pieces of shit, the most fundamentalist Islamist pieces of shit all around the fucking world as a counterweight to any sort of like genuine democratic socialist interest. And we did that.
Okay, so back up. It was not a democracy in Afghanistan. It was not a communist democracy. The leadership of communist Afghanistan was backstabbing each other again and again and again, and they had prisons where they would bring and torture people. During I mean, it was pretty fucking brutal. The Soviet bombing campaign in Afghanistan was one of the most brutal bombing campaigns in the history of the fucking world. If you look at Afghanistan population, just look at their population chart. Population. Yes, population. Look at this. Look at that. You see that dip? That's from 1979 to 1989. The entirety of the war, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. That's how brutal the campaign was. You don't see those dips during any other invasion or any other war. The amount, I think it was like 2 million internally displaced people. Then there was millions of externally displaced because people went to Pakistan. Then there's the dead. Then you add the wounded. And I'm just talking about civilians. I'm not even talking about war casualties. But it was not a democracy. And the thing is, the invasion of Afghanistan, if you talk about the Afghan communist government, when we invaded Afghanistan, 2001, we were still finding mass graves from the communist regime. We were still finding mass graves. This isn't to erase any blame from what we've done in Afghanistan. But just, he's bringing up, like, democratic, like, communism when, you know, they weren't exactly as peachy as to be suggested.
Throughout the entire...
So would you argue that the Soviet-backed government was better than the Mujahideen for the country and its people? It's hard to say. Number one, the Soviet-backed government was 100% better when it came to things like women's rights. Like, undoubtedly. Like, the Mujahideen... Like, if you look at all the Mujahideen, not all of the Mujahideen agreed the same thing on women's rights, but they were a lot more religiously fundamentalist than like the communist government, obviously. And a lot of the things they were trying to institute with oppression and literacy programs, super cool. Other problem, though, was their mass prisons or the bombing campaign and how brutal it was. It was like nothing in comparison to what the Mujahideen was doing when it comes to civilian population. They basically, the Soviet strategy in Afghanistan was literally just bomb them into submission. It failed, but it was basically what we tried to do with napalm in Vietnam. It was their Vietnam, and that's brutality included. So I would say that when it comes to like progressiveness, like obviously, or like better, like when it comes to women's issues, the Soviet government, not even comparable. But on the other hand, like when you talk about casualties and brutality, the Soviets got the Mujahideen beat. Not even a question. So I guess it depends on like what you prioritize.
Duration of the Cold War, and now we're reaping the negative consequences of that. Same with fucking Hamas. Yes. Always, dude. Always. Fourth, we have conveyed the Taliban representatives in Doha via our combatant commander that any action on the part in their ground in Afghanistan that puts U.S. personnel or our mission at risk there will be met with a swift and strong U.S. military response. Taliban's like probably excited, dude. They're going to take up strategic positioning in a lot of these cities. They've already completely fucking surrounded like incoming commerce at the borders. Now they're just going to fucking have a more justifiable cause in their hands because anytime that they fight back against an imperial power, they are seen as, unlikely allies. To the average Afghan, the difference between fucking a Taliban and like whatever fucking warlord that the United States is funding is just the Taliban is a little bit more spicy. Unless you're talking about like urban environments and the urban cities where like there are, more amenities for women, certainly, and girls. Grand Theft Auto 3, Britney is free, the Taliban are running Afghanistan again, 2001 is back.
I saw that tweet. That tweet was fucking hilarious. That was a really good tweet.
Baby, it's true. Wait, what the fuck? Uh-oh. Wait, that means... Not gonna say anything.
Oh. Wait, oh shit. Monka W. Monka fucking W.